to add the bond resolution for facilities improvement projects.
That's not the one on here?
No, it was sent out last week. I have extra copies here.
Yeah, let me have your extra copy because
It was the same resolution that the budget committee.
my printer is sort of tired. All right, we'll add bond resolution is not on the agenda. We'll put that right down. We'll make that F. Well, maybe we'll insert it before that. We'll figure it out.
We didn't do it at the special F&I meeting?
No,
Okay.
Have you got it, Ann?
So which one is that?
It's the 1,400,000.
Oh,
Various capital county facilities.
Yeah, we passed it at the ledge meeting.
We did it at budget, I think.
yes.
Yeah, budget.
We don't need to vote to add it, do we?
Yeah, the committee's
Yeah.
Yeah.
agreeable.
Is there any public comment this morning?
No, never see that.
Public comment? Chair's report. This has been a particularly busy week for the county. EBC meeting, very lengthy regular meeting. I had census. Some of you probably had committees too, and now we have this morning. So the only report I can say is that I'm glad we're all here after all we're having to do this week. Are there any reports or announcements from our committee group or anyone else? All right. Jason.
Good morning, everyone. I just have a few updates. They're more COVID related, but I think most are aware of it. Cornell went back to green on their scale of for their dashboard because their 14-day cycle lapsed and they did not hit 100 cases. So this is a 14-day cycle. So they went to green, if you've heard any chatter around that. We have 38 positive cases now that are currently active and 1 case yesterday. So from a COVID perspective, it's died down a little bit, and it appears, we'll see how the next few days and into early next week goes, that we may be on the downward trend. It's a continued downward trend from the initial series of clusters that started at the beginning of the semester. So that would be a good thing. And they continue to do their regular aggressive testing, several thousands of tests, I think every other day or so, which seems to be, yielding positive results. Not positive, but they're good. It's, you know what I mean? They weren't positive results, but it's good that they're doing it, I guess. That's what I meant to say.
Encouraging.
Yeah, you know what I meant. I didn't mean to say they were positive tests. So that's a good thing. And I think we'll just keep an eye on what's going on. And if things continue this trend, the surveillance testing would be working. And then, people they're complying. They're getting aggressive compliance. They're testing folks twice a week. And their prevalence of the disease, continues to be on a downward trend, which is good. K through 12 has started up this week. This will be the first full week that K through 12 in most school districts in the county will be completed after Friday. So far, nothing has come to the attention or anything that's rised up from that. So, I would say after next week, if things continue this type of low activity, it would be a good indication that prevalence of the disease is low in the community spread is low, and not that we drop our guard or do anything different, but it would give, I think, a sense of confidence that the spread of the disease is remaining a very, very low, and I would say pre-early September times, which is good. There are 2 school districts that start a little later. I believe Lansing is expected to start on the 21st, which would be Monday. And then obviously Ithaca City School District is delayed till October 5th. So, it would be good to go into that time frame with low prevalence and then see what happens after that. And 2 weeks after that, if there's still not a lot of activity, I think that's a good sign for us moving into the fall. That's really all I have with with COVID. That's it. Aside from that, Jeff has worked with Josh Nally at the airport with a bid that's open now for Brown Road, where they may be able to pave the driveway area and the drop-off area going into the airport. That was part of kind of a subsequent project that wasn't funded, but we believe we included it in the additional $3 million bond that we took out in May. So I'm going to talk with Rick and make sure everything's in order, and hopefully they'll be able to do that paving in the next few days, or at least the next week or so. And that was good because we weren't sure if we were going to be able to do that this year, but that's all I have.
Any questions for Jason this morning? Ann?
Jason, do you know offhand the amount of times or the schedule that students K through 12 are being tested and the staff?
So the students are not being tested. And I don't believe the staff is being tested. And if they would be, I would think it would be school by school, but nothing comes to mind, and that I don't remember hearing about any staff in K through 12 schools being tested. I know the children are not.
Okay, well, thank goodness we have such a low prevalence.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll be okay. Thank you.
Yep. I know Frank has had discussions as of recently, and it looks like a saliva test will be available sooner than later, hopefully locally, for particularly K through 12 students. You know, the test is, if you haven't had one, is, you know, it's not a pleasant test to go through for adults, let alone for children. So it's they're trying to do a saliva test that'll be accessible for folks that would be less invasive, but that's yet to come, hopefully in the next few weeks.
Thank you very much.
So the kids will have to initial their spitballs before they chew them up.
Yeah.
Encouraging calls.
Frank, his daughter had to go get a test, and it was brutal. And actually my son has to go get a test today. He has a sore throat. And I'm dreading taking him. I'm home today. I'm dreading taking him because it's not going to be pleasant trying to hold your kid down where they stick something up their nose to touch their brain. It's not going to be pleasant. So I blame Frank for not getting the saliva test sooner.
You could, while you're blaming him, you might pass on a compliment. I did see a nice release from the health department encouraging people to get their flu shots.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that's pretty important. It's interesting, the timing of flu shots. I'm hearing things both directions. People saying get them right away, and people saying wait till late October to get your flu shots. So that might be something that they might want to put out some information on what they're recommending.
It's a good question, Mike, that actually came up in our town hall. And when we asked Frank about it, he said you should go get it. You can get it now. There's nothing wrong getting it now. That said, if any of you have health insurance with the county, we will be doing, we do flu shots at county facilities. I don't know by Excelis does them. I don't know what the time frames are, but you should be, it'll come in your email when flu shot time is, so you can come down most likely to like the old jail, and they'll administer your flu shot if you want to get one. I don't know. It'll probably be in the next few weeks though.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, let's push on to the highway department. Jeff Smith.
Good morning. We have a scheduled flu shot October 7th in the morning at the highway facility. So if you're around, pop in. The resolutions regarding the bond resolutions are our maintenance funds. I work with the bond agent, Bill Marquardt, to put some of the wording together, set the limits in the various aspects of the road side and the bridge side. Speaking to this funding, it's always been great. It's a major contributor to our ability to maintain and increase the overall average road quality rating across the county. It's an incredible asset to have. A lot of counties don't have this. No other year but this year has this given us ability to move forward with paving projects and the questionable state, the state budget, and then the added question of CHIPS and funding and level of funding and everything. And it was only because of this funding that I felt confident, and I believe Jason, and talking with Jason, and we were able to move forward on a couple of roads early, and then, be able to have available funding in the event, we didn't have our CHIPS funding or the state didn't come around. It has, haven't heard anything more. It's still the 80%. It's about not to get too far off subject, but the CHIPS funding has been cut about 550, and that's what it's looking like as far as what they're indicating for budgeting next year. So that just overly makes clear the importance of this extra, very important funding that we put. This money goes right into pavement. It goes right to, right in the system, and helps us to keep and maintain our roads. Same for the bridges. The bridge money generally will go towards, we have what you could call small bridges or large culverts across the county, and there isn't a lot of funding always attributed to those. A lot of governments, municipal governments, public works have trouble funding these. They kind of generally slip under the radar because they're not inspected by state like our larger structures are. So when one goes down, it's kind of always a surprise. There isn't a lot of funding available. You quite often hear municipalities struggling with a 16-foot culvert or a 12-foot box culvert or something that's falling in and failing. They have to close the road or narrow it down to one lane. That's what we at this department try to direct that funding for. Into that, you have heard there has recently been culvert funding from Bridge New York, and we were able to apply and obtain 6 culverts across the county to be replaced. The state's handling that. It's a different consultant engineer. We're also working in our capital plan with that, with the county portion. But I just want to emphasize, the appreciation to be able to obtain this funding year after year. It really is going a long ways. It's super helpful. And I'm glad that we look at it favorably every year, and it goes through this process. I don't know if you have any questions regarding this, but I'll certainly try and answer them.
Questions from the committee? Jeff, you've included this map in our packet. Is that sort of the one that you went over for the legislature when you made your presentation?
Yeah, there was an update last month. Ann asked for an update. It's an existing map, so it certainly wasn't a big lift to review it. And there, if you compared the two maps, they look very similar. But if you had them side by side, you'd see that we made some changes. And I can go to that, or it was that's also in the packet for discussion, and I can answer questions, at least generally, about how the format of the map is. So when you're looking at it, you can if you have questions on that,
Would you rather have us take the resolutions first?
I was talking to the resolutions, but I can switch and go to the map too. It's easy.
All right.
Doesn't matter.
Well, okay, let's go to the resolutions then. Let's start with resolution A. Someone want to move that bond resolution authorizing 1.6 million serial bonds and notes to pay a portion of the cost of roads and highway system reconstruction and improvements at various locations. That's 9546. Glenn has moved that. Ann has seconded it. Discussion on this one. You want to mention anything about it, Jeff?
That's what I was speaking to.
All right.
It's just it goes a long ways to have the liquidity and funding that in times like this last year, I can't understate how important it was to have this in place. Other counties across the state, towns, villages, cities were literally at a standstill when we were able to do some paving and get work done. And it was directly because of this funding.
I think at Budget Committee, Rick Snyder said that this resolution and the next resolution, which is 200,000, was the 1,800,000 that we do annually for reconstruction. Is that correct?
Correct. It's maintenance funding. And it's an annual, it's in the 5-year it's in 5-year chunks in the capital plan. We have gone through, we are now entering, this will be the 7th or 8th year of this type of funding. And we've gone through the first 5 years of the funding, and that level of funding was at 1.2 million. We are now in the second 5-year phase that is at 1.8 million, the second 5-year phase. And I believe we are going into the 3rd year, I believe, of that 1.8 level of funding. So there'll be 2 more years planned following this year. And then after that, the funding jumps again for an additional 5 years at 2.4 million each year for an additional 5 years. It's a 15-year incomplete long program in 5-year increments at different funding rates.
I see Rick. Rick, did you want to add anything?
Rick?
Oh, you got to unmute. We're not hearing you. Wait.
Hi, good morning. No, I think Jeff did well. I just want to make sure I was here to describe these as our annual appropriations for highway. And I want to make sure that the facilities improvements bond resolution was added to the agenda also.
Yes, we have.
Thank you very much.
Okay, are we ready to vote on this resolution? Let's do it. We'll go backwards. Dan?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Dave?
yes,
Ann?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, let's go to resolution B, bond resolution authorizing issuance of 200,000 serial bonds and notes of the county, pay a portion of cost of repairing and replacing existing bridges located within the county. That's 9547. Don't want to move that one.
I'll move it.
Dave and Glenn seconds. Anything additional to add here or not? Okay, we ready to vote? Are there questions? Ann?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes,
Glenn?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
And I vote aye. That's unanimous. Let's go to C, authorization to execute supplemental funding agreement with New York State Department of Transportation, Ludlowville Road Bridge reconstruction. That's town of Lansing, and it's 9559. Glenn's moved that. Dave seconded it. Discussion on this one. This one's underway, isn't it, Jeff?
Yep. I would like to talk about this one a little bit. Thank you.
Go ahead.
This is one of those easy ones. If you recall, at the bid opening and to get the project to move forward, we needed to come up with an additional 200,000 of county funds to continue this project. In conversation with state DOT, they were able to appropriate an additional $90,000 towards this project in state funding. They had that available. The reason for this is to amend that agreement with the state that's existing to add another 90,000 to it. So we still had to come up with a little more on our end, but the additional 90,000 helps. It points out now our rather than, the 200, it's 110 added. So our county share is the 74,350 of the 5% plus the 110 rather than the 200. So it's a good thing. The state was gracious in that. so we were talking about, it was a general conversation about kind of check in with all of our projects, and this one came up. And because of the nature and the bridge, and it's a federal aid project, they were able to have some additional funding to help towards it. So it was good news, and we certainly appreciate that. And this resolution will allow us to amend that agreement with them to, in the end, when we pay all up front, we're going to be getting the more 90,000 more back to go, and that would be something that Rick will see come back in and we'll track, and that can maybe go back into our reserve funds.
Any questions on that? Thanks, Jeff. All right, ready to vote on this resolution?
Ann has a question.
I'm sorry, Ann, didn't see your hand. Go ahead.
Thank you. So Jeff, do you know anything about the other bridge? Was it on Route 34 that's gonna come after this?
I don't have really much to update on that. I know that there has been going through that area, I have seen, and I have been told that others have seen some what appears to be contractors looking the bridge over, which indicates to us that it's presently out to bid. And but I don't know what their bid opening date is. I haven't had that information. I don't know if they're still on schedule to get that started and awarded and have that bridge be, planned to start, I believe, the last week of November. And our bridge is planned to be completed the first week of December. We're hoping that both sides, there isn't a day that anyone is inconvenienced to have to not be able to use our Ludlowville Bridge because of the state bridge. But as we move forward, weather, a lot of things are impacting, but that is the goal, to keep on that, and so that we don't impact anyone's commute.
Well, I appreciate your department keeping that on the right time schedule to help them. Just wondering, for that Route 34, do you know if they're going to take down the whole bridge and then rebuild it? I mean, it's such a massive bridge. I can't imagine them being able to do something alongside it like they would traditionally, a bridge or half at once. They just, that's not feasible, right?
I'm not fully involved with details, and things could change, but what I've been informed of at this time, and this was a few months ago, and I believe this is still the case, is that they're going to demolish the bridge where it is now, and that is the first phase of the project. And then when the weather kind of improves, so that's a winter phase, that's why they're able to start it in the end of November. As you can imagine, it's going to be a pretty intense demolition plan to take this bridge down with all the constraints and everything else, but there will be no temporary structure. And then I believe that the new bridge will be on the same alignment, because they have to take that one out of the way to put the new one in. So that's, if that answers your question, I believe that is the plan. It's a couple of months, I believe, to demolish and then clean up and get ready, and then they'll start, building the new bridge as we'll see. I would imagine that will be well into next year before there's traffic going over that new bridge. That's a big bridge. You're correct. It's going to be quite a project.
And again, sorry for these questions that are out of your purview, but I've had some people ask me, questions about this. Do you know if the state regularly puts out big press releases to let the community know that when the bridge is going to be out of commission?
Yeah, I believe they do. I know they're in touch with the town of Lansing. You would think that they would. I don't, I can't really speak for them. I'm trying to think of other examples that, where they've done work in the area, where we could have been, this is a large scale thing. I would expect that there would be a fairly enhanced public information package to go along with this. The actual detour is involving all state roads. What we are worried about is just the local people that want to just get around that area. that's kind of what our role is, if you will, trying to get this bridge done. But any trucking and any large vehicles that are coming down will be detoured north around and then coming down 34 into Lansing on the higher road. I would guess that there would be press releases upon, when they award it, advertising the start date, things like that. But I don't know. I can't say that for sure.
There was a pretty good article about it in the Tompkins Weekly a week or two ago. Might be worth looking at.
Oh, good. Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think, Jeff, I think you covered it pretty well. What I've heard at the ITCTC is pretty much what you said, that they're looking to start work very late this year and on the deconstruction. So that's why they were so pleased with our schedule on the Ludlowville Bridge for the detour. Most recently, the state replaced the bridge over Fall Creek on Route 38 in the village of Freeville.
There you go.
And they completely took that down and rebuilt it on the same alignment. It's not nearly as large a bridge as what we're talking, but they had a public meeting, a charrette, had people come in. Whether they'll still be able to do that with COVID, I don't know, but I'm guessing they'll have some kind of a meeting with respect to that, at least on Zoom or something like that. And they'll probably put up the message boards, which they usually do for about the meetings. Okay, anything else, Ann? All right, let's vote on this then, please. Dan?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
I vote yes. So let's go ahead and take the other one that we just added. This is a bond resolution authorizing the issuance of up to 1.4 million serial bonds and notes to the county to pay a portion of the cost of various capital improvement projects at various county facilities. If someone want to move that one. Ann, seconded by Dave. And as I mentioned, this has already gone through budget. They've approved it. Discussion on this, Dave? Dave?
No.
Jeff? Sorry. Anyone want to ask any questions? All right, let's vote. Ann?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, so now I guess I kind of pushed ahead on it on the bridge plan map, but you can go ahead with that one, Jeff.
Okay. It's an update. Ann was looking, if we could put this together. So it was submitted. We've cleaned it up a little bit. We took the chip seal off that we've done that was on the last map. Our plans are that much more further along than they were in the presentation to the legislature. I believe now, a month and a half ago. But if you look around, you have your green highlighted roads, that's paving that we've completed. Those are roads that are done. They may still require striping. The shoulders have been placed. Some of the shoulders we're putting recycled millings on and then fog sealing them with a breakout oil that really firms it up. It's not as hard as hot asphalt, but we're getting a great product out of that. Other places we use gravel, crushed gravel out of area sites to back up the shoulder. There's less of that required because we're paving a little wider. That's generally our cross section, how we're doing the roads these days. So where we used to be filling from outside the white line all with gravel or backup, it's now a foot or two less, just to throw that out there as well. That if you get over any of these roads that are highlighted green on this map, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And I think some of them have been striped, but they're not all striped. I would urge you upon, this fall, when the leaves are changing, to go over some of these newly paved county roads with new striping, they look great. They're just out of sight as far as looking at a new road. The next blue color, kind of a dark blue highlight, paving in progress. Those are roads that are done or we're very close to finishing doing the drainage and culvert work on. And we're either very close to finishing and then waiting, or in the next week or two, the paving contractor is moving in to actually mill and pave, or T&L and pave, or however, whatever we're deciding to do, whatever the road needs. You know, we are milling right now, Salt Road, Pleasant Valley, Old Peruville Road, right behind, I believe, today or tomorrow, we're paving those roads. So these are roads that are coming right now that are going to get done this year. Brown Road, Jason talked about us working with the airport, trying to do a couple little airport loop and a couple roads in there. That road is scheduled to go next week. Halseyville Road is ready. We've completely done our piece of that. We're waiting for the vendor to come in and pave that road. Same with Weatherby. Connecticut Hill, we're there. We don't expect a lot of work to need to be done there. But when that's done, you know, the vendor will be coming in and paving hopefully as soon. We did hit a very slow spell as far as vendors able to come in and pave because of the kind of the backlog or the slow start. We really, both our area contractors, vendor pave contractors really kind of disappeared, and everybody was getting the same story, all the towns. And so now they're back in, they're coming, they're able to pave for some of the county roads. They were pulled out to some big state projects and things like that. Happens every year. Just it seems this year it was very clearly denoted on the calendar, but it was okay. We had a lot of work to do before they were coming in anyway. You see,
Yeah, just to speak to that a little bit, Jeff, I came down from Ovid yesterday, and 96 has been paved all the way down almost to Trumansburg, and 318 up in Seneca County is that's all been repaved. So that's where your crews
yeah,
probably.
okay. I got you. Yeah, that's where they've been. Yeah, and they've been doing some 81 work on 81, and you know, different bigger, you know, throughways and highways and things, and yeah, that's where they get pulled out to for sure. I imagine Seneca's Stone had been paving up in that area. So
Right.
I think they did 227, or they're doing something up there out of Trumansburg south into Schuyler as well. I had a call from a resident about that the other day. I directed them to the state. So that's the blue. The black is coming in. We're going to get there. We're going to try and do some work. I don't know that we'll be actually doing any paving. The focus in the next week or so for the remainder of the season is we're going to break our crews up, and we're going to be going to Schaefer Road and Coddington Road. If we get a good, you know, we're going to start at the county line on both roads and work to the north, you know, northwest on Coddington Road, and really trying, if we get the first mile or two and we're able to schedule the vendor to come in, and the funding is there, and all these projects are done, and we see a good amount of funding available, and we're able to get it done, and the numbers are good, we're going to pave. But it's kind of 50-50 right now on Coddington and Schaefer. The other roads in black, we're not going to be paving. That would be Pine Tree Road, Turkey Hill. Those will be next year, but they're on the map. Now that they're on the map, they won't be going off the map. So we'll be getting those done. But a lot of credit to our crews. They've I continue to just let everybody know that they've really buckled down and got, in a short amount of time, I feel like, very encouraged of the season of work that we've gotten done, when it truthfully looked very bleak earlier in the year. It was really unknown. And, the funding package that we just passed, those resolutions for next year, those were, I can't speak enough of how incremental they were to get that paving started and get some things done. and then getting the rest of our work crew back. And we really went after it. They've been excellent, really doing fine, long lasting work, and with very little issues, but it's been a great summer as a result. Thank you.
Yes, and our thanks to all your folks as well. We know how hard they've been working. It's been a hot summer too. It hasn't been easy.
Yeah.
Jeff, I
The,
want to thank you.
Go ahead, Glenn.
I just want to thank Jeff for all the stuff he's done in the town of Groton. Excellent job. People love it. Thank you.
Thanks, Klein.
Yeah, this chair of this committee was pretty worried early on that what we were going to do, and we were going to meet with you about your restricted paving program. And thank God the CHIPS money came through, and you were able to get back a lot on schedule. I won't say totally on schedule, but that was a big plus. Now we're still holding back 20% of that.
Yeah. The total CHIPS reimbursement, and I'm not coming off the top of my head, I have them right here on my desk. We typically get $2,769,000 a year. That's including CHIPS, extreme winter recovery, and Pave New York. That's all three of those. If you take 20% off of that number, it's about 553,000. So we would be we aren't spending the 2.7, we're holding back and only spending 2.2 because that's all we're going to get reimbursed for.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
We're still doing that.
And the way that we're told it's going to work is that, they're not, as we request reimbursement, they're going to reimburse 100% of our requests up to the 80%, and then you're not getting any more. There's been a lot of confusion. That doesn't sound like hard concept, but there's been a lot of confusion across the state regarding that actual thing. Are they going to take 80%, only reimburse 80% of each request for reimbursement, or are they going to do 100% up to the total 80%? And it's truthfully been kind of all over the state, but how I described it is what they're telling us.
You're not getting any feedback yet on 2021 CHIPS, are you?
Yeah, it's early, but yeah, and I kind of talked about that. We are getting indications that to expect another 80% reduction in CHIPS for next year. That is very early.
Down to 80%, right? 20% reduction down to 80%.
Yeah, 20% reduction. Yeah, same as we did.
You said 80%.
Ooh, so I didn't mean that.
And
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. So Jeff, I appreciate you printing out this the road and bridge work update for us. So this is very helpful for me. I hope for other folks. Glenn said about helping out in his area, but I thought you were favoring my area, but okay. But so I appreciate all the work that you've done in the town of Ulysses. And so I was wondering, because of I'm just still amazed that how, with other municipalities, smaller municipalities, just putting off work for so long during COVID, and then struggling to get back to work and everything. So it's just amazing the amount of work that you and your department and the crews have done. So just really in awe of that. And just wondering, with the heat, since it was just an extremely hot summer, and I know myself, like going out to do yard work and stuff like that, there's been some days where it's just incredible. Is this affecting your crews at all with the increasing heat?
We, on those days, we really take extra precaution, hydration. We check on our employees. We typically, when we're working with a couple in a crew, various sizes, there's others around, and what we're careful not to do is leave a person in a flagging role or a traffic control role and then kind of leave them out there to bake all day, So, on those hotter days, we make sure we give them a chance to get into an air conditioned pickup truck, and that we're checking on them and keeping them refreshed with water and things like that. I mean, that's one of the things we do but that's kind of what we look at on those days. They come in, everybody feels it, when you're coming into work that it's just going to be a repressive, high humidity index day. So we're pretty good at that. We do, like I said, we do allow for maybe shorter, but get into an air conditioned pickup truck on those days to just cool down. Certainly we're watching out for each other.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, I know you take real good care of your personnel, but it's just been so oppressive some of these days.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear. So everybody's okay.
There's been this is a few years back now, but one day there was a real hot day, and on the radio they were telling people that they should go to the mall. So I got a call from one of our crews saying, "Hey, if you're looking for us, we're at the mall." No, that wasn't the case, but it was kind of a joke.
Anything else, Ann?
No, thank you very much.
Okay. Jeff, has this new map gone to all our legislators?
No, it was just F&I.
Could we have copies for the rest of the legislature?
I can provide whatever. That is a copy if you wanted to, maybe Kathy could share that, or I could do that, or however, it wouldn't be hard to.
Well, all right, whatever you two work out would be fine, but I think they ought to have copies of it as well.
Yeah, it's certainly easy enough to share. Send it out in an email. Kathy and I can talk after and determine which way is easier.
Okay. Why don't we go right on to your capital payment summary? Anything you want to point out there?
No, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. There has been some further design work, and you see payments on our shop improvements. We were able to replace a air compressor that was getting very old. It was very loud. It didn't have an attached what modern air compressors have as what they call air dryers. Takes the moisture out of the air. That will increase the air tools will break and become rusty and stuff. And this really extends the life of an air tool, which we require mechanics to purchase through their tool allowance and things. They're all their own tools. So it was a really good thing to get in there. That it's what's called a type of compressor, is a screw compressor. It doesn't have that big kick where if you've ever been around a compressor that turns on when the air is needed, it's very, very loud and it can really startle you, literally. And ours was a large one for the whole shop. So it was and it's inside. So what we've been able to do is procure a modern air dryer screw compressor. Literally, I heard it turn on. I was right out there the other day. It turned on, and I had to actually consciously say to myself, that was the air compressor that just turned on. It was installed a month or so ago, and it's been running, and you don't even notice it. So that's a huge improvement. Very appreciated by the mechanics. So it's a very, very nice thing to work around now. That's a piece of what we're trying to do, kind of the idea. Some of the other things are more involved with some design and some estimates, and we'll have to have contractors come in. But that's one thing I wanted to point out that we have done with that. The Central Chapel and Etna Lane bridges are moving along. We've received design approval from the state, so they're going into the next phase of more detailed design. We have believe so that these are on schedule to be constructed next year. We will move forward with them. If it gets late in the year, we may bid next year, even in the fall for the following year, but I'll be updating everyone on those projects as they come along. Next month is our quarterly status report. So I can speak more in depth with those and all the other capital projects that are going on.
Any other questions on those? Jeff, you made me think of something I was going to ask about. We have that Bailey Bridge that we use for temporary.
Yep.
What kind of life do we have on that? Is that in good condition? I know we bought it used somewhere.
It's the any damage or say if it were to corrode, there you can replace any part of that bridge. It's very, very modular. It's in place right now. It's at Morell Road in Newfield, alongside of a closed single lane bridge, giving access to, it's on a dead end road, giving access to several residences. Our plan is to continue to look at Morell Road, and this is another project that's really kind of stalled because of what's going on and other priority projects coming around. But we were able to set this bridge in place, and it's a great asset to have, and it's allowing us time to work through and get replace or repair, rehab, or replace the bridge that's existing in that location.
So basically,
as far as getting old, I just want to say they really do, nothing lasts forever, but they do have a very long lifespan. And if you do ever have any damage or corrosion or dilapidation of some modular piece of it, you call up the company and they send you that piece of it. When we first purchased it, there was some damage to some of the pieces, and we at that time worked with the company to expend a little more money and get a couple more panels. So.
All right, that was just something I've been thinking about, wondered about it. All right, thank you. Anything else for Jeff this morning? Jeff, thank you for your thorough report. We appreciate it. And please extend our thanks to all the people that work for you up there.
I will certainly do that. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice weekend.
On transportation, Jeff, while you're still there, got an email yesterday from Fernando de Aragon about ITC. They had their planning group meet, and they said that there was information on the proposed Freeze Road Bridge. Did you happen to see that email?
Yeah, I did.
I was talking about it being shorter than the existing bridge. And I wondered if you knew anything about that, any thoughts on it at all? But that was just came yesterday.
I did see that email. I read through it. It sounded as though there was a discussion that triggered or caused that email around what they referred to as riparian protection. Stream bed, basically stream bed wetland protection. They call it riparian areas. This is something that I don't really have a concern on. I think that in this aspect, it's certainly something to be concerned about to make sure that it's done right. But the bridge, and I'm just kind of going off of memory, it's going from, I think, 280. So it's like 160 foot span to it's shortening in length 40 feet, I think.
Okay, yeah, I think it was 180, they said.
I could pull 180. It's no, isn't it 70 foot span? I'm sorry. I don't want to.
Yeah, that's all right. But I was just wondering, here's what I'm had in my mind. I wish I could have been at that meeting, but in 1981, when we had the flood, it dropped that bridge because it washed out one of the
abutments.
Abutments, that's the word. And that's just, I'm wondering if they narrow it, whether we're going to have any trouble if we have another flooding event.
They will, all of that will be considered. All of that is known. The design engineer and DOT will look at that and take all that in. The design of the structures are very different, being that where the actual load is placed on the abutments is well above the stream. There's what's called an integral abutment that sets back behind, even though the span is less. You used to, I would guess that when it failed was a spread footing. And if water ever gets under that, there's really no protections as far as piles that go deeper into the soil. The way they build bridges today, they can pretty much stand on their own with no soil around them. And, they kind of live on the piles if there's erosion around them. So, the other idea too that they were pointing out in the email is that in order to make the span less or shorter, they're able to remove the center pier that's existing with the present structure. So in a way, they're mitigating that riparian disturbance by now they're in cases of high water, that center pier is actually a channel and it pushes water, and it's a structural component of the bridge if the center pier fails. And so there's argument there to say that by shortening the span, but removing the center pier, they're mitigating circumstances, and then combined with the improvements in design and things like that. I don't think that that's much concern. I wish it was a 2-lane bridge, Mike. I'll just say that. But I don't think in this area, all the things as far as the riparian concerns will be addressed.
Well, just as we know, even though this is a town project, it's going to end up being a county bridge. Right.
No, absolutely. No, I thank you for bringing that up. I mean, it's a good conversation. When I saw the email, I read through it, and this is a conversation I've had, prior to now, as far as the design concepts. And so that I'm fairly aware of those mitigating factors by removing that center pier. So, as far as the final end project, I'm going to do all I can to ensure that, it's a correctly built bridge, not something that will come back on the county taxpayers for many years to come.
I'll forward that email to the other members of the committee later today, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, no problem.
The other thing on transportation I wanted to mention was that there was the Route 13 public meeting, which was done on Zoom, which probably didn't get as much response as if we'd had an actual face-to-face meeting, which usually has a lot of people at it. But they did get 120 people who signed into that, and we just got that from the consultants, including a tape of the meeting. Was that forwarded to all the legislature, or shall I send that on as well? Anybody get that besides me?
No.
Dave, did you get it? Okay, I'll send it on so you'll have it and you can listen to it. It was great to have it. And we got the only comments that they could make were written comments on the chat or the question answer piece on the Zoom. So there didn't really have any dialogue with the folks that were attending. But you got an update on what the consultants have been looking at. Mostly the intersections in the newer part of Route 13, starting at Warren Road and Lower Creek, Hanshaw, and the Niseg area were the ones that they spent the most time talking about. And roundabouts. Not my favorite thing, but that's something they're talking about. Okay, anything I can answer about anything else? Anybody else have anything we want to bring up today's meeting? We got the minutes to do yet.
I do have one thing I'd like to bring
Yes,
up.
Dan, go ahead.
I want to report about something about TCAT.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Just a quick background that we've spent several years at TCAT trying to respond to the situation where the current facility is just overcrowded, more employees and more buses than that facility is designed for, with a lot of negative consequences from that. So we spent a few years analyzing that and making a plan for what we want to do about it. And a year or so ago, we decided we were going to pursue building a brand new facility at the airport. And the first step of that, well, one of the first steps of that was we applied for a federal grant. It's called the Build Grant for $25 million. Yesterday, we found out we did not get that grant. And I'm going to put a little silver lining spin on that, which is that while there was no doubt that TCAT was in need of a new facility under current conditions, and that also both the county, the city, and Cornell have all consistently said that they want more service and that they expect growth and growth demands for all of their clients, and that more demand equals a bigger facility. There's no doubt about that. Now, in the current moment, that assumption is a little harder to make. With coronavirus, right, everything has changed and it's very hard to make predictions about the future. I would say that the future of bus transportation is at the top of that list of things that we really don't know what it's going to look like in the future. So the silver lining for me is that it gives us a chance to rethink the whole thing and give ourselves some time to see what the trend is in bus ridership, because it is plausible that bus ridership will never come back to what it was before. And if that's the case, it's possible TCAT does not need a new facility. So just want to report that we did not get the grant, but in a way, the good part about that is it gives us more time to really figure out what might happen next and how we should respond to that.
Thank you, Dan. That's a pretty important and profound report we just heard. That's going to take a lot of thought and discussion. I agree with you. Ann Koreman.
Thank you. So I was wondering, Dan's, have they, and they're just starting to think about that, or you guys are just starting to think about that, the board. Just wondering if at some point in the discussion, it might be smaller buses, which of course would take up less room, but just, and I don't know if that's going to be financially feasible, but just thinking, because I know maintenance is still going to be significant, even on a smaller bus. You still have to have the driver and all the other associated work with that. But just thinking about the essential workers who a lot of them are lower income, that working from home is not an option, and just trying to make sure that, that we take care of those folks as best we can.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if I need to say this, but I can assure you that TCAT is still committed to robust public transportation. We are not wavering in that. As far as smaller buses, I mean, I can tell you know this already. They don't really cost less. They don't really result in much savings at all. And in this particular moment, we're limiting the number of passengers that can be on any one bus to about half the normal capacity. So just theoretically, if we were to go to a smaller bus right now, we'd have to limit it even further. So at this moment, for a variety of reasons, that doesn't seem like the right solution. In the future, it might be the right solution, but we don't really know what that future is yet.
And maybe hovercrafts and jetpacks will be something that'll be considered down the road too.
Bring it on.
Thank you for that sobering news.
Let's take the minutes. August 20th. Ann, Glenn, discussion on those? Ready to vote? Ann?
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
I vote yes. September 1,
I'll move it.
Glenn, and seconds. Discussion on that one? Let's vote. Dan,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
I vote yes. Rick, you
Mike, Mike, before we adjourn, since we have a rel on the phone, I was just wondering if he has any updates about the facilities or anything else.
thanks for, I don't see a rel.
I'm left.
There you are. Okay. You popped on. Yes, well, let's do that. Thanks for being here, Rel. I also see Rick popped up again too, so he might want to say something, but go ahead, Rel. Welcome. And how are things going in your department?
Well, Ann read my mind because I was going to ask for a few minutes. Yeah, I just wanted to give you an update on projects this year that we've completed. We had 4 projects. We had the fire alarm upgrade project that affected your building, the main courthouse, and the mental health building. And that was completed probably a little over a month ago. We also had the carpeting project for the mental health building and the human services building. It was a tough project to coordinate because it started just before COVID, and then most of it happened during COVID. So it was challenging, but we fortunately didn't see any increased costs from the contract as a result of that. So that was completed. So if you go to either of those buildings, you'll notice the new carpeting in both areas. Also, we did the parking lot projects that affected the emergency response center. We paved the area in front of the building that's been gravel since the building was built there in 2004. So it's a nice paved lot, as well as we did the back lot on the backside where the employees park. And we also did the health department. And we were fortunate there that during COVID, the building next to us that had a large parking area, all their employees were not there. So we were able to have the health department employees park in that lot, move their county vehicles there. And I was willing to pay a lease for parking there. They said, no, that's fine. So we've said in the future, if they have to upgrade their lot, that they can park on our lot. So we were very fortunate that we were able to work with our neighbors there. And if you've been there, you've noticed the nice lot now at both buildings. And then the last project was roof replacement here at our facility, which affected the highway maintenance bays and the wash bay. So we replaced that roof, which is about 32 years old. And so those projects all successful. We had good contractors on those projects, and it was completed without any issues. The other thing that I wanted to mention, unless there are questions on those projects, is I had expected a lot of questions on that resolution. And so I did I'm not sure if I can share the screen. So I've got just a quick, to show you basically what, are you able to see what I'm showing?
Yeah.
Yes.
We can see it. Go ahead with that. That would be interesting. We appreciate that.
So these are the buildings that are affected and the projects that we will be doing. So at the Human Services Building, as you'll notice, we have several elevator modernization projects and upgrades. And so we'll be doing that at the Human Services Building, as well as resurfacing the parking lots at the front of the building on both sides of the building, on the Seneca Street side and on the State Street side. At the main courthouse, we're upgrading the elevator as well. At the old jail, also an elevator modernization project, and at the mental health building modernization project. Here at our facility, we're doing roof replacement on the last section of roofing that is yet to be done, which is over the vehicle garage, which is the largest section of the building. And then also we're resurfacing the visitor parking lot in the front. And then at the library, we're refinishing the exterior insulation finish system. They call it IFIS or Drive It, which is there at the entrance of the building, which everyone sees, and it just needs attention. And really quickly, I'm just showing pictures. This is the elevator upgrade at the Human Services Building, this 24-year-old elevator that needs to be modernized, both some ADA improvements and also some additional safety features that have come out since, and then basically just dressing up the interior cars. The next is at the same building, the parking lots on, as I said, on both sides of the building, that 24 years old that needs to be redone. At the library, this is the IFAS, that front, but there's portions of IFAS around the perimeter of the building, but this is the largest section that we want to refinish. At the main courthouse, this is our oldest elevator. It's 48 years old. And surprisingly, we don't have as many issues with this elevator. It's the newer ones. I mean, somewhat newer, the 25-year-plus elevators that tend to give more problems because there are more electronics in them. But this one is in need of upgrades, both for safety and also for ADA.
Historically, that was a huge fight. There was a lawsuit because there was no elevator in the courthouse, and the county spent a long time trying to figure out where to put that in the courthouse. I wasn't on the county board of reps then, but I certainly remember the controversy over it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah, that would have been in the 70s, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it would have been, no, it'd been the 80s.
Okay. All right.
And they actually looked at the possibility of putting a glass elevator up the middle of the stairwell.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't do that.
Me too.
I like that stairwell. Then the other one is the old jail. Those that use that elevator, there's many times, especially during the winter, that it's very jerky. And so we have issues. So that would also be modernized. And then the mental health building, that elevator is probably the costliest as far as repairs. That we've had to do 2 major repairs in the past 5 years that have cost about $20,000 a piece. And it's really these drives on the lower left and right. It's the drive on the left, and then on the right is the controls. Those are the issues that we've had, and really the parts are obsolete. So we've had to send most of the stuff back for kind of refurbishing, and that's why it's been costly, because you can't really buy some of these spare parts. So that would be upgraded as well. And then here,
Rel, I think at budget, I asked about the fact that the one elevator there is much newer than the other, whether that was why they both needed to be refurbished. And I think you said they both had problems.
Right. Yeah. The elevator that was added the car, but the drive here on the left, that serves both. And so that was, original is older, as well as the controls on the right. It's really, they added the car. When they built the building, they designed the shaft so it could take an additional car, which was done a few years after that. But yes, most of the issues have to do with the controls and the drive. And then we have the last portion, as I said, of roof replacement at the Public Works facility. It's a 33-year-old roof. It's a ballasted roof, which is the stones on there provide the weight on it. And the newer roofs that we do now, we do not put ballast. That adds weight to the roof. And also those roofs tend to leak more over time than the fully adhered membrane roof. So, and as you see, it has a 50 kW solar array on that. So that'll have to be removed while they redo that roof. And then the last one would be the same here at our facility, is the visitor parking lot. It's a small lot that's it's original to when the building was upgraded. So we would also make improvements to that. And that's it as far as the those facility restoration projects that are in that resolution.
Thank you. Could you send that PowerPoint off to us at the committee?
Sure, I'll send it over.
It'd be nice to have, especially the photos are very, very helpful. Questions for Arel about that presentation?
I've got one. First, I wanted to thank Arel for putting this together pretty quickly. We just found out last Monday that we were supposed to be adding this to the bond resolutions that had to be passed this fiscal year. So we put the whole resolution together with the bond attorney and Arel inside of 1 week. So that was a pretty massive lift to have to do at the last minute. So thank you, Arel, for helping us get this back on schedule. And I did have a follow-up question for Arel on the library renovations project, which was closed out about 2 years ago. I still have a $300,000 grant that we've not received. And I sent a number of emails over the last year to all the players, to Jackie Kippola and to that person who was hired to be the grant administrator for the library,
Right.
personnel at the library, on the status of finishing that grant and getting the money. And I'm wondering, do you have any idea on what's needed yet to get that $300,000 grant?
I don't, but I can check with the libraries. I know that they were the ones that were processing all that. They had requested all the information. It's been a couple of years.
Yeah, it's been over 2 years.
We've given
And
them all that.
like I said, the last couple of emails that I sent, I never got a response from anybody. So I guess some of that might have been, well, it was all pre-COVID, so you can't blame COVID on the lack of response. But,
Right.
you know, I've been trying to wrap that up for 2 years, and I'm getting a little bit antsy now that, of course, you know, with funding being cut back from the state and everybody choked for dollars, I'm hoping that doesn't get denied or pushed back even further. We'll probably have to light a fire and find out what else, if anything, we need to produce in order to get that funding.
Okay. Well, I can go to the library and talk to them in person. Michelle Benjamin is their finance person. So
Right.
start there. And then if not, I can talk to Annette and see if there's a holdup or if it's just they're waiting and they're just not getting any.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Arel.
You're
I think
welcome.
that's the first we'd heard of that, so I'm glad it's going to be followed up on.
Can Arel stop sharing?
I'm sorry?
Can Arel stop sharing?
Oh, Kathy's asking Arel if you could take your
Oh, I'm sorry.
sharing down.
All right. Let's see.
As long as we're talking about the library, I have a different question. And that is, what's the status of the solar panels in the library at this point?
How so when you say status?
Are they still operating?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We have a service contract with SunPower, which is, it was Power Light at first, and they were bought out by another company. Now it's SunPower out of California. So they monitor the production, and also they get alarms if it goes down. They call us and email us, so it can either reset the inverter. And they're actually scheduled, I think, later this month or next month to come and do an actual on-site PM, which they do annually for us. And if they come up with any issues with the array, then we have them proceed with any repairs. I mean, they are pushing 20 years now. So, I mean, they're degrading as far as their production. So probably within the next 5 years, we may want to look at whether we're going to be replacing a lot of the panels or not. I mean, that was a $1 million project. We had 500,000, I think, in grants for that, but that was a big project at the time.
That was controversial also.
Yeah.
We basically, those of us who voted for it, did it as a demonstration project. I think it was the largest one in at least upstate at the time.
Well, East Coast was the largest government array on the East Coast at the time.
And then, of course, they built the parking structure that shaded part of it. So anyway, thank you for that, too.
You're welcome.
Anything else for Dave McKenna's got a hand up, and so does Ann. Dave? You're still muted, Dave.
Yeah, Arel, can you tell us how that project's worked out financially over the years? I mean, you say $1 million project, has it paid for itself?
I haven't looked at that in several years. The projected, the production that they projected, in those early years, we were meeting those. And then as Mike mentioned, they built the garage to the south and then the apartments to the east of it. That had some impact, but not as great as we had thought at the time. And what we had done is kind of to mitigate that is we did some additional energy improvements within the building to offset whatever losses we were getting as far as shading on the array. I would say, it's been 20 years. We were, probably saving in the order of maybe $20,000 to $30,000 over that period of time. And our piece of it was, as I said, 500,000. So yes, by now we've paid for it. But if it had been the full million, we'd still be paying for it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ann?
Thanks for this report, Arel. This is very helpful. I had a question on the ADA upgrades for the elevators. Do you know at least in some detail what those are?
Yeah, and just improvements on kind of the braille and such on the controls and buttons, both outside the car and inside the car, and also audio, so you know what floor you're on. Right now, you don't know if you're taking the elevator, if you are sight impaired, what floor you're going, and making sure that the letter sizing is larger on all the cars. And then safety is just improved safety features. I mean, the elevators are safe, but since then some additional requirements have come through, and so we're going to be doing that, as well as just kind of making the interior of the cars, redoing all that, changing panels and such, and just upgrading that.
Thank you, and I'm glad the library EAF system is being done. I know, just being a home inspector, that's often talked about in any training I go to, just about that, to let those go and to let any water intrusion get in is can be very costly, never mind mold and other things. So I'm glad that's being done. I mean, I don't know, at some point, I don't know if it'll be just to the legislature or if you'll do a presentation here first, because of the budgeting issues, as far as, which projects are going to have to be, put on hold for now or be delayed. Do you think you'll present to us, or, well, I guess we probably won't have time before budget?
Well, the what I presented in the PowerPoint just now is part of the that facility restoration project that's slated for next year. So, I mean, I would plan to present that again during my budget presentation if time allows. And so that's the plan for next year as far as capital improvements. There are other projects that Jason has or will talk about, the larger projects that you, the legislature, can have to decide when we're going to move forward on those. These are really the only large projects that we have slated. I mean, there's a backlog of other projects. These are the priority ones. And so I think we're okay now. It's not like I'm asking for more money to do these other projects that I've had to push for later years. There's another one also for public safety building improvements. It's a separate one. And that's as a result of having to delay any major decisions on the use, what we're going to do with the public safety building. So those are, improvements that need to be taken care of because the building is deteriorating. So that's separate from this $1.4 million project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else for Arel this morning? That was very, very helpful, Arel. Thank you for being here. Sorry I didn't catch you when you first came on.
No, that's fine. You're welcome.
Did I miss anybody else that wants to talk to us this morning? Hope not. Okay, is there anything else that we need to do this morning? Dave mouthed something, but you're muted. What was that?
Adjourn the meeting.
Well, is that a motion to adjourn?
It is.
Is there a second? Detected by Dan. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Thank you a lot. Have a good afternoon, or good morning and afternoon.
Have a good day, everybody.
You too. Thank you.
That was